Hey, hey, hey! Good morning. It's Saturday and it's early, and I've got loads of icons over my screen. What's going on? There we go. Don't know how to get rid of all of this off my screen this morning. So, welcome, good morning, happy Saturday. It's Naomi here. This morning I'm broadcasting live from Brighton, which is quite exciting on my house sitting missions. So I'm at a friend's bedroom. The kids are all downstairs doing fitness and craziness with Daddy. Standard Saturday morning behaviour. So just bear with me because my screen... Ah yes, got rid of those. Brilliant. So I'm just waiting for some people to join us here. Bit of extra light on the subject. How are we all doing on this fine Saturday morning? It is 7 weeks to Rest Fest now. So I'm super excited about that. The countdown is really hotting up, and had a few last minute changes to the schedule yesterday. So I've got some really exciting announcements to make. We've got 2 new workshops being added in as we speak. So I'm just finalising all the details for that, and I'll be announcing that over the weekend. But yeah, we're going to get passionate and creative with the 2 workshops I have lined up. So it's very, very exciting. Now, no one's jumping on this call. Oh, two people. We have 2 people. Say hello. Who have we got on this morning? Hopefully there's Meghan, because I've got quiet mode on. Swipe left. Oh, there's Meghan. Beautiful. Hello, gorgeous. Right. Add you in by the magic of technology to share the screen to talk all about.
Hello, good morning.
We've done it. I'm always like slightly blown away when it actually works. So this is good.
This is magic. I'm really well this morning. Yeah, really excited to talk to you today.
I know, it's bright and early for a Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, normally I'm not quite up this early unless it's with my son. So, but it's the best reason to get up early, to talk all things female empowerment and cyclical wisdom and connecting with our bodies. So yeah, great reason to be up early on a Saturday.
I know, I am so excited, and actually this is a first for me because all the other ladies that I've been chatting with so far I know quite well. So this is a first because I'm really excited to get to know you on this call as well this morning, because just looking at your bio, I was just like blown away. I was like, wow, this is a woman with a mission. This is a woman that's so purposeful and got her passions all going on. So I'm really excited to find out about that today ahead of your 2 workshops at Rest Fest. There's just saying 7 weeks to go now, so things are really hotting up. I know.
You're gathering such a fantastic group of women. I mean, what I always say in my Koya classes or my workshops is that if more than 2 women gather together, magic happens. So, you know, over 100 women, maybe 200 women gathering together, there's going to be a heck of a lot of magic happening in Worthing that weekend. So yeah, it's really exciting.
I know. We're going to be causing some huge high vibes, massive energy shifts. Like, my intention for the day is that people just have these magical moments, you know, these aha moments, they leave the day feeling transformed in some kind of way, that they're going to take some kind of learning, some kind of experience, like on a deep soul level, that's just going to stay with them forever. And, you know, you're part of that intention. So we're really looking forward to sharing some of your knowledge and wisdom this morning. But for anyone that doesn't know about Rest Fest, let me just quickly fill you in. It's a women-only wellbeing festival in Worthing in West Sussex on Saturday the 6th of October. A beautiful venue called Field Place. So we've got barns, pavilions, we're going to have some few bell tents set up, and also a manor house. So it's a combination of 18 different workshops and seminars running throughout the day. We've got gorgeous catering. We've got a pop-up spa, so you can go and be beautified and treated and have makeup tutorials, as well as a marketplace as well, where there'll be lots of amazing people selling stunning jewellery, amazing organic loveliness, and just helping you to feel more awesome. That is the plan for the day. So tickets are available at www.restfest.co.uk, and the prices jump up on the 1st of September, so get in quick, ladies. So that's my sales bit done now. on with the really exciting stuff. Let's get to know you, Meghan. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how it is that you come to be a woman craft practitioner, a choir teacher. I mean, your bio is just epic. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I think what's important to know, so I'm clearly not from this land. I am a migrant. I've lived in the UK for 12 years. And before I've lived in the UK, I was in Nicaragua for 5 years. And before that, I was living in America. And I'm from Boston originally. I think what's interesting to know about me is that I've been a social justice, sort of women's empowerment warrior since I was very little. I'm a Gemini by my sun sign, and I'm a Libra by my moon sign. So however you slice it, my two biggest signs are all about equality, justice, fairness, and really not just being able to recognize when there is injustice, but really needing and being motivated to do something about it. So from the time I was tiny, if we wind it way back, but when I was like 6 or 7, I told my parents that I wanted to be the second female Supreme Court justice in the United States. There was one at the time, Sandra Day O'Connor, and even at 6 or 7, I'm like, there's significant gender underrepresentation in the in the political echelons of our country. So, you know, from the time I was tiny, I was sort of very, not just civically minded, but social justice minded, but also recognizing that there's power and privilege differences in gender. And sort of, I saw that through a gender lens for a really long time. And as sort of my life and sort of beginnings of my career progressed, I began to see that through more of an intersectional lens, that actually it's all the different parts of our identities that kind of come together to impact how we move through the world and how we move through systems and how we negotiate our own power and privilege. So where I've kind of come from was wanting to go into the real like justice, being a lawyer, and then having a huge pivot when I was about 23 after working for a law firm for a year, immigration and human rights law firm in Boston, and the founding partner had founded a charity in Nicaragua in the 80s, and because I spoke Spanish, he was like, could you do some work for me there? Could you make a phone call, this, that? And so I found myself at 23 going to Nicaragua for the first time. And that just changed my entire outlook on life. And I was really fortunate to be able to meet a group of Nicaraguans and Americans. And together we co-founded the first lending library in Central America. And that model has now been used to create hundreds of lending libraries. And why that's really important, how that kind of connects to my story, is that when you give or provide opportunities for learning and information, that's when you really give the ability to empower over to other people. So lending libraries, access to information, access to the internet was something that I really felt I was really involved in my 20s on a community and sort of sustainability level. But then when you go into communities and you go into safe spaces in communities, or you create those safe spaces, often what I found is that who was congregating towards them was women. And when I was working in Nicaragua, I was meeting up with women and their children, and I was learning about them and their experiences. And one of the things that just kept coming up was male violence against women, was interfamily violence. And so I ended up doing my master's in gender and cultural studies and doing my dissertation in Nicaragua around what masculinity and femininity and gender roles look like in that country. And then soon after I did that, I ended up meeting my husband and moving to the UK where he was based. And so that was 12 years ago now. And I sort of converted that understanding of gender roles into a career in ending violence against women. Wow. So for the last 12 years, I've done a number of different things as sort of I wouldn't say, you know, it's been my primary career, and then I've expanded. I've started a bit of a side hustle in other forms of women's empowerment, which is now becoming, I wouldn't say 50-50 yet, but there's a share and a crossover between the work that I do. So I've been an advocate for women. I've run a women's charity for women experiencing any form of violence, but particularly domestic abuse from family members or intimate partners. I've done research. I chair domestic homicide reviews. I've started an organization called the Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance, which helps housing providers understand their role in tackling domestic abuse. And really before I left my full-time career a year ago, I was working as the strategic lead for ending violence against women in central London. So I was commissioning services, running partnerships, and really trying to get a huge chunk of London to understand that everyone that works with people has a responsibility to take a look at what they're doing to end violence against women, and then to work together to do that more effectively. It's the idea that violence against women is both a cause and a consequence of gender inequality, and that actually by tackling this is an issue systemically on a community level and on a national level, by looking at gender roles and by trying to make things and by balancing things more equally, we will make communities safer for women, children, and also for men as well. Wow. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, busy. My mind is just blown, Meghan, by all of that. That is just so staggeringly, you know, vital in the work that you've done. You know, I'm just honoured to be sharing this space with you, with somebody that is just so passionate. Thank you.
So, I mean, I think it's, you know, just, I like to, I mean, the statistics are really interesting, but like, I think one of the reasons why it's so important that this is an issue is that 2 women every week are killed by their partners in the UK still. In 2018, 2 women lose their lives.
Sorry, honey, so I think, you just broke up a little bit there. Can you just say that statistic again? Because you just broke up a little bit there, so you missed the important stat there.
So in 2018, 2 women a week lose their lives are killed by partners. So or ex-partners. So this is not something that, like, you know, it happens elsewhere. It's happening in other countries. It's not something that, like, oh, it's just, oh, you know, it's a small issue. It's a big issue. And I think, and so my career has been dedicated to helping people understand their responsibility and their role in this work. Whether you're a police officer, a social worker, a dentist, you know, whoever you are, like, I think a community member, a friend, I think we all have a role to play in that. So I love my work, and I've had a really great career so far in the UK, and the UK's really been, you know, very welcoming and feels like home, so much home to me now. I think, but it's always been work. And when you work on something that's social justice oriented, when you work on something that you're passionate about, that drives your heart, it's really hard to come home at the end of the day, take off your professional garb, like maybe take off your suit, and, you know, you can put on your yoga trousers and get cozy in your house, but your heart doesn't stop thinking about it. Your mind doesn't stop thinking about it. And that, you know, I think there's an amazing thing, and I have so much gratitude for being able to do work that feels like a vocation, that energizes me, that lights me up. But at the same time, it's not something that I can just be like, oh, you know, it's 9 to 5, I'm going to put that down and, you know, be fully present and not think about it. What happened for me, and I think, and now I've talked to so many women that this has happened to as well, is that it became a bit too much. I was realizing for the last few years of the work that I was doing, even though, you know, it lit me up and I felt really empowered and also really, you know, always really privileged to be able to do this work. What I started to notice in myself was that I was stressed. I was carrying a lot of stress and a lot of tension in my body. I was really living in my head, in this space up here, and not connecting at all with my body from the neck down. And I think I wasn't paying attention to the signs of stress, of burnout, of exhaustion. I wasn't listening to myself in all of my parts. My brain and my passion were what was driving me, but this wasn't really connected. So I think
relate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us can relate. And I think, you know, and I think part of the reason why that is because we live in societies in the Western world, especially, we live in societies that are driven by masculine linear energy. And what that looks like is having to show up in the world the same way every single day. It's based on sort of the masculine and male energy cycle, which is 24 hours, which is different from a female energy cycle, which is roughly 28 days or a month. So our cycle is sort of 3 weeks on, 1 week rest. That's, if we were really listening to our bodies, that's what we'd want to be giving to ourselves. Whereas men sort of operate more on a 24-hour cycle. So if we kind of look at how life has been created, and we, you know, you can call it patriarchy, you can relate it to gender equality, but the reality is, oftentimes we all, male and female, are really pressured to just show up, perform, you know, then you have the scripts of potentially perfectionism, wanting to do more, wanting to please everybody. And all of that gets encoded onto our bodies in a way that says, you actually can't pay attention to your bodies, because your body is where all the wisdom lies. And if you, you know, if you were really paying attention to it, it would say, no, slow down.
Yeah.
So basically why I was able to sort of about two and a half years ago to sort of begin to notice what was happening for me in my work and in my life was because I started doing, well, it all started with, in terms of paying attention to my body, I started doing yoga about 7 years ago. So I began to develop a you know, pretty regular yoga practice and sort of began to sort of land in my body. And I was doing yoga. I live in Godalming, in Surrey, and there's some amazing yoga teachers. There's a great studio called Cafe Mila, and the best yoga teacher in the land, in my opinion, is a woman called Leanne Perry-Ferreira, and she's fantastic. And so it was sort of through her that I got to understand what yoga was all about. And then also the combination, that sort of mind, body, spirit combination in your body. So I was doing yoga and I was like, you know, this feels really good. I feel like I'm connecting with myself and it's kind of bringing up other stuff, really nice. And I started to be like, oh, do I want to be like, when I like something, I tend to go, I don't half-ass anything. I put my whole ass into it. So I was like, I love yoga now. Do I want to be a yoga teacher? In addition to everything else. So I kind of explored that. I went to Rishikesh in India and did about 50 hours of yoga teacher training. And I was like, you know, yoga, I love it, but it feels like there's something missing. And so about that time, so this is about 3 years ago now, I wrote in a journal, I'd really love to create a practice, a yoga practice that, you know, is a bit more feminist, that is a bit more, you know, feminine energy, that like maybe involves music and dance and, you know, and I'd written this down and then kind of abandoned it. And then I started to, well, it was around that same time that I started to follow a woman who's amazing. And Alexandra Pope.
Hold on, honey. Meghan, you just froze completely there. So rewind about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Rewind.
So I kind of had like put this vision into a journal. Like, this is what I wanted. This is a practice I want to find, I want to invent, I want to create, because yoga isn't 100% doing it for me. And then around the same time, I started to read up. I was looking for a practice that was more inclusive, that was more body positive. And so I was looking up, like, what does that look like? And so I found a movement called curvy yoga, which is started in America. And I was like, ooh, curvy yoga. Like, so that looks like it's more body inclusive. Like, I'm a curvy woman. You know, like, I know what it takes to be super slim in this body. And that is not a good headspace for me. So I'm like, I need to practice, like, curvy yoga. Let's see. So I Googled curvy yoga. And there's one curvy yoga teacher in the UK, and her name is Lisa Lister. And then I was like, Lisa, tell me more about what you're doing. And Lisa is like, if you don't know Lisa, she is an amazing woman. She has written 3 books, Code Red, Love Your Lady Landscape, and Witch. And she is like the cyclical goddess, menstrual maven, amazing lady. So I got in touch with Lisa and then started to read all her books, digest them all. And I was like, what? How am I at like 36, a feminist, working in women's empowerment, like showing up for the women every single day? How on earth did I not know that in my body there is so much wisdom contained in my cycle, in my menstrual cycle? How did this just surpass me? So I got really angry. I was like, this, you know, and I was like, and then I started to realize why. Because generally a lot of the messaging we get as women is that we get from lots of different places, including we get it then and then internalize and get it from ourselves, is this idea that, you know, our bodies are not okay unless they look a certain way, that actually that it's better in terms of like keeping our power down if we don't understand the innate wisdom of our bodies that basically allows us to understand how we're showing up in the world and then make decisions accordingly. So I was like, oh, just another example of inequality that I don't know, that like, you know, and that like our periods, our bleed is completely sanitized, and that when you like, it's only been in the last year that we've actually had like tampon or like, you know, menstrual pad commercials that use red liquid. Like, we don't bleed blue, people. Like, we're not, you know, we're not aliens. Come on. So, but it's all of that, like saying like we have to sanitize our cycle. We need to sanitize our bleed. We need to, and if we don't, we need to be ashamed of it. So I was like, okay, so I took some time. I'm like, I need to figure this out. Like, this is like, this could potentially be a major game changer for me. And it was at the time when I was like, I'm coming into my body. I'm starting to make that longest journey from my head down into my heart. And so I was like, well, I know part of this is going to be connecting to my cycle. And then part of this is going to be actually connecting back through movement. So it's been this parallel process over the last few years of taking sort of my skills and my career as a facilitator, as a connector, as someone who is here showing up for women and people generally every single day to help make things better, more equal and safer for people in their daily lives and in their communities. And trying to looking into a new, like basically combining that with this huge amount of information I've been taking on over the last few years, starting with understanding my menstrual cycle. And I went on a retreat in Malta a few years ago with Lisa. And it just, you know, you have these moments of women gathering that are just game changers. And Malta was one of those for me. And it was through that, spending time with myself in community with other women and really stepping into that body and that physical cyclical power that changed things for me. And I also met a woman. There's just the woo-woo network in the UK is awesome. Like, so I met this woman named Ebony Allard. And Ebony is a misfit to maven entrepreneurial coach. She's fab. And it was through her. Like, I met her. We walked the tour in Glastonbury about 6 months after Malta. And she said, I was like, you know what? I'm doing these long school runs for my kid. I need some podcasts. And she was like, oh, my ex-PA, Sarah Stars, has this awesome podcast called Girl Gang Conversations. Take a listen. The first podcast I listened to with Sarah was one on Koya. It was with the founder of Koya, Rochelle Sheik. And I was like, this sounds oddly familiar. I think I wrote about this in a journal a few years ago. I think, so it's only taken about 18 months to manifest this. Okay, great. So
it's magic.
It's magic. And so I was like, what is this Koya thing? So I went online and I was like, right. Within a week, I went down to Shoreham and took Kate Taylor's class. And Kate and I will be co-teaching a Koya class, a taster Koya class at RestFest. And I was like, I immediately was like, this is it. This is the practice that I'm meant to teach. This is the practice that it's not really teaching, it's facilitating and sharing. It's creating spaces for women to go into their bodies, to slow down and just to listen, and to get into their heart space and to hear their soul's whisper. That is what Koya is all about. Wow. So really, that was almost 2 years ago now. And I just completed my Koya training in April in Costa Rica. And I've taught almost 70 classes with groups of women all over the UK in the last 18 months. And I mean, I'll give you a little sneak peek, because hopefully Kate and I will be back in a few weeks to talk about Koya in a bit longer, in more detail. But Koya is based on the idea that through movement, we remember. And we remember as women that we're wise, wild, and free.
Yes.
Yeah. So who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to remember?
Hello.
It's that idea that everything in you that you need, everything is already in you. You just have to remember. So wow. It's a combination of, so like the wise, wild, and free reflect the kind of movement we do. It's a movement class, but it's also a sharing class. It's like it's like exercise for the mind, body, and soul. It's like no practice that I've ever experienced before, but we do. So it's like the wise part of it is drawing on the ancient wisdom of yoga, but also connecting you to your inner wisdom. We do breath work and meditation. The wild part is is the dancing that we do. And it's more of a free dance. It's not the kind of dance that, like, you know, that's very choreographed and prescriptive, or like the kind of dance that you did if you took dancing, like ballet classes growing up. That's not the kind of dance we do. It's the kind of dance like when you're in your house and you're doing something, you may be cooking, I don't want to be gendered about it, but you might be working with some music in the background, and then all of a sudden the song comes on and you're like, I literally cannot not move. And that's the kind of movement that we're talking about in Koya. It's just like, I can't not move. So it's very free. It's not prescriptive at all. Anyone can do it. And then the free part of Koya is feminine sensual movement. So kind of coming back into your body, connecting with your hips, connecting with your womb space. And it's the idea that it's you move in a way that feels good in your body. And more than feeling good, it feels true and authentic to you. And guess what? As cyclical creatures, and I'm talking about sort of cis women who are born with parts that bleed. And I know that that's not the case for every woman, but this is in particular. And I think any woman can do Koya, and any woman can connect with their bodies in however way they identify and connect with their bodies, just to say all of that. But basically, it's that we all show up in different ways every day, and you're going to show up in a Koya class, you're going to show up in one of my workshops, and it's going to depend on all sorts of things. It's going to depend on where you are in your menstrual cycle. It's going to depend on if you don't bleed anymore. It's going to depend on if you pay attention to and align with the lunar cycles. It's going to depend on where you are in your life cycle. Are you a maiden? Are you a crone? Are you an enchantress? Like, where are you there? And it's also going to depend on the time of year that we practice together. So it's all of those different things. And so wherever you're at, when you come to a Koya class, it's just about tuning into where you are today. And so if today it feels really good to move along, maybe you're in your ovulation, so part of your menstrual cycle, you have a ton of that sort of more masculine type energy, and you just really want to move and you want to be big and take up lots of space, that's fine. The woman next to you might be, you know, she might be at 55 and going through, you know, coming to the tail end of menopause, and she might have had a really hard week and she's really tired. So maybe she, like, what her practice looks like is something a bit more slow, is something a bit quieter, something more internal. And in a Koya class, because the invitation is to show up exactly as you are. In Koya, we say you come as you are and you leave as more of who you are. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. And it's that there's no beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So anyone can come to the taster class. There's no levels. The only level is, well, there's no way to do it wrong. And the way you know you're doing it right is when it feels good in your body.
Gosh, I'm just so excited about every single thing that you've said. Every single thing. But I'm having a bit of a battery problem with my phone.
Okay.
I'm staying at a friend's house and I haven't charged my phone enough. So I just, in case everything like cuts out, I'm just warning you, that's what's happened to my phone.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about the Feminine Flow workshop as well, because that sounds super exciting. So maybe in like 2 minutes, tell us some more about that. And if I cut out people, I apologise for being totally unprofessional, but I'm showing up just the way I am today.
Exactly as you are today, which is all we can do. So I mean, Koya has given me a platform. So what I often do is I teach regular Koya classes, but I also do workshops. So usually once a month, I'll do a longer workshop around lots of different things. And so I've done a workshop around feminine flow and cyclical wisdom quite a few times, because for me, that's where it starts, is like sort of getting to know your body and getting to know where you are. So what we'll do in the workshop is I'll kind of take you through sort of the 4 stages of the menstrual cycle. So bleed, menstruation, pre-ovulation, ovulation, and premenstruation. And I'll help you understand what those phases could look like for you, and give you some time to reflect on what they might look like for you, giving time to figure out where you are in your cycle today, and then giving you some information about how you could tune in to wherever you are, and how you could use that information to make decisions, to understand yourself a bit better, and ultimately to have a bit more compassion for how you show up in the world. So
it's game-changing stuff. It's game-changing stuff.
I mean, it's basically like lifting a veil, and it's sort of like, okay, this makes so much more sense to me right now, more sense than it's ever made before. So you know, one of the biggest examples is like, you know, if you like halfway through your cycle, if you're, you know, during your ovulation phase, you have tons of energy, you know, you're like, it's like, I'm going to get shit done. Like, I'm doing this, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm, you know, I'm fertile, I'm creative. Like, look at me, I'm out in the world. And then you're like, I can do anything. And then you make all these plans for like the second half of your cycle. You're like, yes, I will see you. I'll do that. All the meetings. And then you get to like, maybe, you know, the premenstrual part of the cycle, which a lot of people don't like, because they think it's like, it's the time when I'm hormonal, it's the time I'm this, but like, it's the time when I'm really critical. It's the time when I'm really moody. But actually, you can use that to your advantage. Like, your inner critic is strong. You cut through the bullshit. You can do a lot of editing in your life during that time. But basically, like, but also it helps, but also you start to want to go internal. You start to want to slow down. And you're kind of like, why did I say yes to all those things? And why do I not want to do them now? Why do I not have the energy? And so previously, like, I would have been like, oh, Meghan, like, get your shit together. Like, that's, you know, you have these commitments. You've said yes. And then I would like really beat myself up and I feel really bad about it. And I do things that didn't feel right. And now, because I have that understanding and I know my cycle and I've charted my cycle for years, I can then make plans accordingly. Like, I know more or less when I'm going to bleed. I know more or less when I'm going to be premenstrual. And if, you know, I'm cognizant of those times. And so I make decisions in my life, professionally and personally, differently. And then even if I make decisions that don't feel right in the day, it's better to know why they don't feel right and do them. So
Yeah.
it's just that understanding. It's empowerment through knowledge. It's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. I just could not agree more with you. Like, it was a revelation for me to discover all this kind of information a few years ago. And much like yourself, I felt so angry. I was like, how can I be like in my late 30s? And no one's ever told me this shit. You know, why? So
I mean, we have
a complete game changer for me.
I mean, we have 350 to 500 cycles in our lifetime as women, as bleeding women. Yeah. And if you look at every one of those as an opportunity to learn more about yourself, like the fact, but you see how like it's connected to the disempowerment of women, like that knowledge is power. That gives us, like, to understand yourself and to understand other women is like a huge amount of power. So kind of to keep the structures in place that keep women, you know, slightly less equal, that power has been taken away from us. That power has been silenced. And so, you know, I think that young women, so I often say to, you know, I usually get women in my classes in their 20s to their 60s. And I often say to women who have teenagers or young girls, even under 10, like, you have this wisdom now, and you can share it with younger people so that by the time of your first bleed, you understand that this can be an empowering thing for your whole life.
Hell yeah, definitely, for sure. That is my mission, to pass on all this wisdom to my little ones and all of their tribes as well, because just, yeah, it's vital, isn't it? It's vital stuff.
Absolutely. And then it's really simple once and I think that's been the feedback I get from the women I've been really lucky enough to meet and work with over the last few years. Is like, yeah, you know, it's once you see it, it's there. You can't walk away from it. And it's just it is a game changer. So that's why, you know, when I was speaking to you about what kind of workshop to offer, I think this is fundamental knowledge, but it's knowledge that not a lot of people have access to. So I think it's a really good one for RestFest. And you know, it'll be basic knowledge, but then I'll make sure you have all the tools, so a reading list, some charting materials to then go away and do some more exploration on your own.
Amazing. I just cannot tell you like how excited I am for all the women coming to just have this experience with you. Like, it is just gonna literally blow their minds. So I'm so grateful to have you along. It's just absolutely fantastic. So Meghan, just tell us where we can find out a little bit more about you as well, and your websites and your social hookups, so that people can go and find out more about your work.
So it would probably in 2018, it would probably surprise you to know that I don't have a website. It's been it's crazy. It's been a year of me. I have a consultancy for the violence against women, and I have Koya and women craft practices, and neither one has a website, but yet I'm busier than I've ever been before. So my development goal is for September to get websites up for both of those. So hopefully by RestFest, I'll have some websites in place. But
she go back? Oh, Meghan, where have you gone? Oh, I've totally lost her now. Totally lost her now. What we will do, I will get all of Meghan's social links and I will post all of the links at the bottom of this video, because honestly, she is just such a fascinating, beautiful, wonderful woman, and I really love for you to all be able to hook up with her and find out more about the amazing work that she's doing. This really profound, really incredible, really empowering work for women that she is doing. Let's have one more go, see if we can, oh hold on, bring her back on, let's see if it's happening.
I'm back.
Yay!
No idea what happened.
That's it, you're here, fabulous. Cool. So yeah, where can we find you?
So Instagram at Koya with Meghan, and then also Qoya with Meghan, and then also on Facebook at Surrey Koya with Meghan and Roland's Castle Koya. Those are the two areas I teach in. So yeah, in the interim, yeah, please go to those Facebook and Instagram. And then, yeah, hopefully very soon I'll be able to share all of this in a website format, which I'm working on right now.
Cool. And what are you looking forward to most about RestFest? Tell us. I know you're a fan. I saw your birthday party pictures. I was like, this is a girl after my own heart. We both turned 40 in June.
You know, I had never been to a festival before in my life. And then
really?
I said, for my 40th birthday, I want to have my own. So I recommend that. It's just like, you know, if you're interested in festivals, just create one of your own. It's a lot of fun, a lot of work. What I'm really looking forward to is, like, I just love like the energy of women gathering. So first and foremost, I'm looking forward to just being around a bunch of amazing, awesome women, and also meeting and having these conversations. So having conversations in a group, having one-to-one conversations, and just, you know, creating that magic and that energy that only women can create together. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is creating magic with everybody.
Yes, loads of magic. It is going to be magical. I love that word. I'm going to borrow that for all my posts this week. We're going to have some big magic, some big shizzle happening at RestFest. Thank you so much for showing up this morning, Meghan. I've loved every minute of talking to you, and I'm sure everyone that's been watching and will watch over the next few days will also be totally inspired by you and just coming along to meet you. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
You in 7
Can't
weeks'
wait to see you in October.
Totally rock this thing. Brilliant. Take
care.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Great
Take
to
care.
connect.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye-bye.